we've heard and seen multiple stories come out here lately about police who are called to help handle a situation where someone has a special needs family member, and the situation gets out of control, and the police, end up killing the person. And we've got another example of that here in California, where a 18-year-old special need girl was fatally shot because the family made the mistake, quote unquote, of calling for help. The San Mateo County sheriffs claims that they were responding to reports of a violent female who they thought was armed, and that they ended up killing her based on that. The family claims they called trying to get paramedics, just somebody to help restrain her and get her some help, and the situation escalated needlessly. So they said they were shocked when deputies showed up rather than paramedics. Her brother Tiny says, she has special needs. We just wanted answers. Who are we supposed to call now when we need help? Who is supposed to help us when who is supposed to help us is killing our kids? Now, of course, the answer here is there's no one for you to call because it's too late. But I believe, speaking for other families in this situation, and this is not an isolated incident. We've seen this where we in America are so quick to go to police who are so quick to escalate to lethal force, and they're not trained for situations like this as well as many other situations. And we just see another, it sucks when it happens, and it sucks for the police who are in the situation and act poorly. But at the same time, that doesn't, absolve them. So my question, I guess I want to start off with Jeff. Actually, we'll start off with Sean. How about that? I'll throw Sean a bone and try to be nice to him for once, Sean. Since I know the police abuse is a big thing for you, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Tell me all about what's going on here.
Well, I mean, we don't know all the details in the story. Like, I'm being serious about that part. But it seems like the police treated this like they had better things to do, so they tried to subdue the girl as quickly as possible. Like, maybe they did get bad information, but, like, there's this new thing in the world where you arrive at a scene and you talk to people and you assess the situation and you move forward from there, and I don't think the police did any of that. Like, the fact that they immediately escalate to force, like, it's to such, like, levels of force. I get you have to restrain her, but it just makes no sense. And, like, I hate to say it, but, like, try not calling 911 unless you really need it, you really need it for a real emergency. Like, we've seen case after case where they'll come, and sometimes they'll even come to a house where there's a mentally handicapped person, and the cops will be good for a while. Then a supervisor will show up and it'll be like, "Let's get the hell out of here, wrap this up," and then they'll kill the kid. Like, the police, it's becoming more and more clear that the police are not interested in helping you, or at least some section of the police are not interested in helping you or helping these kids. And it's like, these stories are awful, and it's awful that it keeps reoccurring.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty reasonable commentary. Jeff, you want to add anything to what Sean had to say?
Well, I was just going to say, we may not know all of the facts, but something that I don't know if you guys had mentioned is that, she hadn't, reportedly she hadn't been taking her medication, and that's why they called, because they wanted help, right? They wanted her to get some help from, like, the paramedics and stuff, from, like, to take her to the hospital because she was having, like, an episode, right? And Tiny, the brother, said, well, she may have had a knife. Now, not having a knife is not a fucking justification for you to roll in with your fucking guns drawn and blow her ass away. That is fucking horrible, right? You shouldn't be able to do that. And so what you're looking at here is a definite escalation to deadly force for absolutely no reason whatsoever. She was a 22-year-old special needs, a girl with special needs, right? She was no threat to the police. None. She may have had a knife. Maybe. Possibly. But they didn't even go in there and do what they were supposed to do. They weren't even supposed to be there. It was supposed to be medical personnel. Now, I can understand if in a possible dangerous situation that the police will accompany medical professionals. That's completely, that's fine, 100% normal. right? In that sort of situation, understandable. But this was just the police coming in there and saying, let's just, I don't know, let's dangerous situation, let's check it out. Oh my God, she may have a knife. Boom. America has gone crazy with our police state.
No, totally, totally. And I think maybe a real practical answer there, and this is me trying to to give as much benefit of the doubt as I can to the police, but also ask what I feel like as a non-law enforcement officer. Maybe if we've got anybody in law enforcement watching the audience, you can tell me why this is stupid. But I mean, so you're moving in numbers. You're not there by yourself. You can't talk with someone. It's a situation where you can't de-escalate the situation just by dialogue. She's off her meds. Okay, she may pose a very real threat. I mean, it stinks. It's horrible that she's got special needs. But if she poses a threat to human life, then you do have to take action. Whether or not she's got special needs, that doesn't save someone else's life. If she does truly have a knife and she stabs someone, well, that's where I'm going with this. So if you're working in numbers, why then does everyone immediately draw a gun? Can one person not pull some sort of non-lethal restraint like a taser or pepper spray, who is then backed up by another officer with a weapon that is there to escalate to lethal force if and only if non-lethal force first fails? Whenever you have cops in numbers, then you can divide that, and that's how military outfits work. One person covers the other person. You split up the way to advance, and that's how you get and you stay alive. So the same principle should apply to police work. You have one guy who's there if and only if he's needed, ready to escalate to lethal force. But in America, it seems more and more the first response, it's almost like a race to shoot. Everybody goes straight to lethal force, and you want to get there before your buddy does. And it's a really, really sad commentary on what we've seen to accept as acceptable police work. Nick, you want to give us a Canadian perspective on this?
Yes, I very much do. So, I'm not sure if calling 911 works the same way as it does here, but up here, when you call 911, the first question you were asked is, fire, ambulance, police. Is that the same way down there?
It's 911, what's your emergency usually?
No, ours is straight up fire, ambulance, police. Then they forward you, then they ask for the state of your emergency, and then they send the appropriate response. So, now maybe it varies depending on locality. Maybe the person screwed up, or maybe that is part of the repertoire somewhere. But I think that if that is the case, and that's what they ask, there's literally no reason the police should have shown up. They didn't call for the police. They called for paramedics. They told the situation. They said there might have been a knife, so maybe you send a squad car with maybe 1 or 2 cops to back up the paramedics. The police shouldn't go there and take charge of the situation and then escalate it so quickly. So never mind the fact about deadly force. They didn't even call the cops. They called for paramedics because they knew what this was. Now, as to the cops themselves, I think you guys are completely right. That, I mean, jumping to deadly force is insanity. I mean, up here we have various laws. I mean, legally as a citizen, in a violent situation, you're permitted to use reasonable force. And I mean, arguably the debate about reasonable is tossed back and forth. But I'm pretty damn sure that applies to law enforcement too. You are not allowed to go on and just shoot somebody and then later claim your life is threatened. There is a very thorough investigation following that, and when it finds out that actually in that situation at that moment there's no possible way your life would have been threatened, then you get fired and charged. So the fact that there's this automatic leap from not even wanting to be there in the first place, not even being called to be there in the first place, to then going to deadly force, and Sean's twitching like no tomorrow, so I'm thinking he's like waiting to jump in on this. But the fact that you jump from we weren't even called to be there in the first place to we're shooting this girl it's insanity. I can't understand that. I mean, even if you don't, I mean, I understand the argument about tasers and their safety, but going from taser to gun doesn't make the situation better. It makes it worse. And there's so many other utilities they could use. Do they not have like the extendable sort of like baton sticks down there? Do they not have pepper spray that could be used? Do they not have non-violent methods of doing this? Or are some of America's police departments so cash-strapped that guns are their only possible option? I don't understand this.
It seems like today in our police force, and I'm not speaking for every single police officer, obviously, but it seems like in a lot of cases, guns seem to be the only option, and that's a problem. That's a big fucking problem.
I do want to point out one thing, and it's not really in the cop's defense. It's just about like protocol. Is if you get a 911 call and you ask for an ambulance and you say that your kid's out of control or whatever, like sending a police unit with that ambulance is not like unreasonable. Every time the fire department comes, if the firemen themselves aren't EMS, they'll send an ambulance in tandem with them. So like,
right. I think we've all.
And I just want to say I agree with that. I'm not arguing against that point.
Yeah,
it's just
we've
the fact
all
that
addressed
the cops
that.
got there first.
Right, we've all addressed that. I mean, I addressed that. Nick addressed that. Now you, Sean, you came back and also addressed that. Like, that's completely reasonable in that sort of situation. What's unreasonable is immediately the cop going to deadly force.